No way. Howard, you're not dumb. You went to BU. You're a smart man.
BU.
There's your credentials.
They made all the geniuses into BU. You know that I went to BU, but I went to retard BU? Like I didn't even go to the real BU.
It wasn't even the real college?
Yeah, there's a college at Boston University for idiots. It's to milk parents who can't normally get their kids into the school. You know, I was a real idiot. Oh. And BU has a program called, it's like the Special Olympics. It was called Basic Studies. It doesn't get embarrassing than that. Like when you're trying to pick up a chick at BU and you tell her you're in Basic Studies, you're like, fucking loser.
Yeah.
They head for the hills. You think it was easy to get laid with this face and being in Basic Studies? And Basic Studies, the deal was, even though you're a shit student, you can't even score above 1,000 on your SATs, we're going to let you into BU, let your old man pay the freight, and you got to, for 2 years, take everything you were supposed to take in high school, but you fucked up.
So you're really in high school?
I'm in high school. I was in high school for 2 more years. Believe me, this was no college. I was studying, like, high school chemistry, you know, humanities, which was actually watching movies. And it was like retard school. And then if you passed retard school, they'd let you for the next 2 years get into, you know, like the School of Communications, where I'd study radio. I'd study fucking radio. What's the study of radio? There wasn't one professor that
you
knew
weren't
anything about.
making radios.
No, if we made radios, it would have made sense. Study radio. I'm sure my old man was having a conniption. It cost him like $5 grand a year at the time, which was a lot of money for my father.
You wanted to do the Howard Stern Radio Network, which I think is a fantastic idea, but I know it has to be a tremendous undertaking. And what I was thinking...
It's not that tremendous. I can make it happen.
Well,
I'm in the middle of doing it.
With so many people now having these digital dishes, and also the big satellite dishes, which we have, why couldn't you get on sort of like a pay...
Because you're missing the point. Radio...
Confused about what we do.
Yeah, radio is primarily listened to in cars. Unless you get a satellite dish on your car.
We're not going on cable radio.
Yeah, we don't want to take our step back. When I was in college, we had cable radio. They would only broadcast it into the dormitories over the phone lines. I'm not looking to take a step back. I'm a broadcaster.
Yeah, but at least that way people that are all over the country, like us who tape the show every day, would have the option.
I don't care. I don't care. I'm not looking to do a paid radio show. That's going to be the saddest day of my career when I got to do a paid radio show. I'd rather quit.
So 80 and 100 million a year go into your corporation. You go on Sirius, the satellite radio channel, okay? How are they going to make a profit? I mean, how many people you think are going to go over? And what are they, like $50 for that thing, subscription?
Is it my problem if they make a profit?
No.
Is that my worry?
No.
Welcome, ladies and gents, to QF, a podcast about Howard Stern. I'm your host, Fillmore, a.k.a. Jim Fix, and with me for the bootleg edition of Drew Lange, featuring myself and Mr. Len Young, who's back again, back into the fray. How are you, sir?
I'm really good, really good. Good to be back.
Yeah, and the Liverpool's doing well, Ajax doing well, and Howard's getting found out to be a little bit of a fanook on the side, and but we already knew this anyway. And lots of breakdowns coming at you guys, and also a lot of media storm coming at him as well. We've covered that, and we got loads of content. So we hope you guys enjoy this. This one's a continuation of the Drew Artie interview that we thought, not interview, but the Howard TV thing. I thought we were pretty much done with it. I thought there was just a bit of office hallway conversation with the camera guy, but it turns out there's a bit more. And as far as I know, there's also some, like I said, cuts that were not in the original that I have. So I'm going to play them if we get through this, and we will. And then we got a bit of the wrap-up show to play as well. So I'm going to start it off.
What do you think of these colonics? Let me switch off Artie for a second here. Robin it's a nightmare.
Well, Artie was doing colonics to get off drugs.
No, to get healthy. You're addicted to coffee in your ass. And made it to Dr. Drew.
Dr. Drew, the question is, I'm concerned about Robin. I'm going to ask you.
I'm addicted to colonics.
Here's the deal. Robin,
once a week, Robin is consumed with what kind of duty comes out of her.
I'm not consumed with anything.
I eat a healthy diet. Duty comes out of me.
You're the one who's had the lack of energy. Do you hear me complaining?
God created us as a perfect instrument.
I know, guys. Incidentally, we covered just a little bit of this, but it goes further than what we gave you so far. So, did you want to say something about this?
No, I was just going to say, as I'm looking at you now, there's the audience won't know, but there's an animated GIF of Paul Lind right behind your head, and he's looking particularly festive.
Yeah,
more than usual. Very tanned as well.
Oh yeah, he liked his vacations. And if you ever read the Peter Marshall book on Hollywood Squares, it's a phenomenal read because it said like everybody who was shitty to them in the business and who was great, and the Hollywood Squares cast, like the regulars, would go on vacation together quite a lot.
Yeah, you know what? I remember listening to
him on the
who was the guy?
podcast?
Who's the big guy? Who's the big guy? Who's the comedy writer? He looks preposterous. He's got ridiculous hair. He's fantastic though.
Which one? Bruce Valanche.
Bruce Valanche, yeah. So he was on Gilbert's podcast.
Yeah,
and he was telling these stories, and he's just, I love him. I could listen to him all day.
He's great. The stuff he was talking about working on the Donnie and Marie show was fantastic.
Yeah, and the story about Paul Lynde dressed up as a witch smoking a cigarette. And he sees but anyway, they talked about that book Inside Hollywood. So I looked it up to try and buy it, and it was one of those. The only place I could find it was like Amazon.co.uk, and it was buy now used 99 sterling, just a ridiculous price. And it's just a book that would have never been published in Europe.
And no Kindle, no Kindle edition.
Oh no, I didn't look for that. I couldn't see it. It's the only one I could find was a used copy.
Yeah, I got it for Kindle these days. I don't even bother with hard books anymore because I just have too many, and I'm trying to downsize actually because it's saving for the hassle of moving. I prefer physical books, but if it's more practical and I can put it on my phone, on my tablet, on my laptop, anything, and it's wherever you want to go, you got it.
Well, those Kindle, I remember getting my wife one for Christmas one year.
Yeah,
they're called Paperwhite or
Paperwhite. Yep, I've got one.
And I used it for a while, and I was just amazed at how practical and how natural it was.
Yeah,
and you could use it at nighttime. It's just ideal. Like, so I can see why it's very. I must have a look at getting one for myself because they're cheap as chips. Like they're 100 quid. So
and light. The one that I had is not. It's not backlit. It's just a normal one, and the battery lasts forever. I stopped using it because I'm using my tablet. I should be using the original one more. And you can change the fonts. You can change the backing, sort of with the newer ones. And I usually get like a beige look on. It's because it's lighter on the eyes. I love it. I think it's great. Anyway, we'll continue, guys. It's more of the
back
shit
to Robin's ass. Yeah,
that way. Yes, that our colon was designed to handle what it handles.
Is this an addiction? Is this an addiction?
Robin looks great. She looks very healthy right now.
But is it an addiction to go once a week with the duty and the tube up the ass?
No, I would not call it an addiction.
It's not an addiction.
You
it's sort
keep
of a compulsion
sleeping in the afternoon.
It's a compulsion. What, to be clean back there?
People get this preoccupation that they're dirty. There's something in them. The colon's outside your body completely.
Nick Manning
was not in your body. It's out. It's a tube. It's outside your body.
Go ahead.
And it's designed. I mean, the lining is specifically designed not to let anything in it. Just
I believe that Elvis had 40 pounds of duty.
All the colon does.
You believe anything?
We talked about this, I'm sure. Elvis was a fucking drug addict. Died from and he was constipated from all the fucking drugs he was taking.
Yeah, I read something about Elvis that was really disturbing. That the combination of medications that he was on resulted in what's the word? Constipation, like chronic constipation. But when he died, there was something like this clay-like substance they found in. But they did it like it was disgusting. It was the type of thing when I read, I felt nauseous.
Oh yeah.
But I wouldn't doubt it because the guy was just off his mash 24/7, Elvis, for the last kind of 7 years of his life. So all those medications, there could have been all sorts of kind of counter interactions with all those medications. So all bets are off with Elvis's ass. I'm afraid.
Yeah. For her to bring him up is such the wrong thing to do. And this is actually ironically after you just got finished listening to It's Not Easy Drinking Green, the latest and listening to her get so angry about a simple question about Tim Sabian doing this fasting along with her and what he's going to eat after his first 21 days not eating solid food.
Yeah, I mean, Robin is endlessly fascinating to me. I love that episode. I think Kayla said something really, really insightful. I think she said Robin is someone who's always searching for something, and I think she is. She's always. It's like that. Who's that? philosopher from Slovakia. You know that guy with the beard, and he has a lisp. He actually sounds retarded, but he's really smart.
Let me go through my retarded philosopher glossary.
Zizek or Zazek, he's still alive. But anyway, he has this thing. He talks about the temptation of meaning, and we're all looking for meaning in life, all of us. And some people find it in religion, other people find it in conspiracy theories or cults or. Robin can't really give herself over to anything because she's such a narcissist. So it's all about her. So I think the diet stuff was definitely, perhaps it was a reaction to getting a cancer diagnosis. I wouldn't rule that out. But anything that revolves around Robin is she'll gravitate towards. Yeah. But I thought it was fascinating listening to her. She's so spiky and defensive. And even when they mention olive oil, Howard says, "Is that okay, Robin? Olive oil?" I mean, olive oil is, widely regarded, especially if it's extra virgin, chemically pressed, unprocessed. It's widely regarded as being very healthy. There's very little evidence to suggest otherwise. But no, Robin knows best. Robin and Dr. Ronnie.
Robin and Dr. Ronnie, neither of whom studied any of this shit.
Yeah, I mean, it's ridiculous. So, like, what's Dr. Ronnie a doctor of? I mean, I think Jack Klugman is more of a doctor than Dr. Ronnie,
She's probably MD.
Whenever you see these hacks, like there's the guy on YouTube called Dr. Berg. Do you ever see this guy?
No,
and he's this big he's a keto evangelist. Turns out he's a Scientology whale. Oh. And he sells all these supplements. He gives all his money to Scientology, and he's a doctor. Turns out he's not a real doctor though. He's a chiropractor.
That would have been like the guy at the beginning of the pandemic talking to Congress in Florida, I believe, and he was giving, his video was circulated. They go, he's a doctor, and he's telling you the vaccine doesn't work, and all this bullshit. You find out he's a chiropractor.
Yeah, I know. It's the Trojan horse for people.
Yeah, I mean,
to have that in their name.
You can have you can be a doctor of philosophy. It doesn't mean you know how to fucking inject your own arse. That didn't. I know that sounded a little too dirty, but the bottom line is Robin is in a constant, and she's always been, even now, in a constant state of looking for the next thing, the next revelatory thing, and I don't. In some ways, she's more pitiable than, in a lot of ways, she's more pitiable than Howard, because at the end of the day, I don't think she's an evil person. I think she's a horrendously awful, self-centered narcissist, but I think she has good in her in terms of when she wants to do good for some people. I don't think it's the same way Howard does. Like, he wants to know how much it cost. He wants you to know what pains he went through to get it, that kind of shit. And you owe him, that kind of thing. I don't know for a fact that she believes anybody owes her if they do things. It's only Ralph who she bitches to because he's a complete mooch and not grateful for anything he gets. He's also very entitled.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you to a point. I think she's not as transactional as Howard is.
Right.
But at the same time, if Robin ever does something good for somebody, you better believe you're going to fucking hear about it. And you're going to hear about it more than once. Like, so when she went to visit Artie in the hospital, she mentioned that at least 2-3 times.
Maybe she did it to shame Howard.
Yeah, I wouldn't rule that out either. I mean, these are terrible people, as you say.
Generally, yeah. Like, if you had to feel sorry for either of them, I suppose it would be Robin, but it would be hard.
I think Robin is someone who's very easily manipulated, and a great example of this is how she goes off on one of these fads, and someone just fills her head full of shit. Dr. Ronnie starts telling her, stuff like one of the great ones I remember hearing was green vegetables oxygenate the body because they're green, and that's what they do in the wild. But that's photosynthesis. You need sunlight. Like, doesn't make any sense. But that's the type of shit that Dr. Ronnie would be like. She'd be pumping that up Robin's arse along with the coffee, and then she goes into the studio, and suddenly she's an expert.
Yes,
and she's lording it over everyone, and she's now disseminating her discoveries on the cutting edge of food science. But she doesn't know shit.
Right.
You
Well,
know,
one of my sisters-in-law is like this, and she is an absolute overt NPD. She's very, know-it-all, but meanwhile, she doesn't have any post-secondary education, really. She never finished and got a degree in anything. And it's all about her, and every book she read she's the first person to read it, including the author who wrote the fucking thing. And it's obnoxious, especially if you're a learned person or even semi-learned, and you're listening to this person that loves hearing themselves speak and doesn't give anybody a chance to breathe and talk. And Robin's not dissimilar. I mean, she listen to some things? I guess she's not as bad as my sister-in-law would be, but is she up her own asshole? Absolutely. 100%.
there's nothing worse than when someone assumes you don't know something off the bat. It's kind of offensive when someone says, even when someone says to me, "Do you know what? There's a film you should really watch, Goodfellas," or well, yeah, I have seen it. A Taxi Driver, or The Deer Hunter, or
right.
Oh, you know, it's a film you'd love, Glengarry Glen Ross. It's like, I've seen it 40 times. Why did you think I wouldn't have seen it?
Have you heard of The Godfather?
Yeah.
Well, the phrase I can't stand is, but you don't understand.
Mm.
And that one is used by my sister-in-law so often. I want to jump out the window and I want to tie a cinder block around my neck to speed up the process, because she, and Robin's no different in terms of that whole, no one likes a know-it-all. There's no give and take with her, I don't believe. And when we would cover for the 15 Foundation, you remember those, the little promos she cut for Mima and the Sylvia's Kitchen, whatever, and they were all about her completely. They were just little vanity edits to make her look like some great person, but they made her look awful.
Yeah.
And she didn't have the awareness to go, this makes me look like a really self-centered, childish, brain-dead person. No one would want, and I'm certain anybody who saw it and would have told her this knew better, because it's not going to change anything.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think with Robin, another example is, do you remember when she came in and she said, don't eat salt.
Right.
There's too much salt and everything. Now, I understand there is a lot of salt. But I think what happened there was someone said to Robin, look, you're huge and you've got high blood pressure. So salt is actually bad for you. And that's true. If you do have high blood pressure, salt is bad because you overload your kidneys and it's not good for you.
That's right.
But if you're healthy and you like salt and you don't have any health issues, go ahead. I mean, it's not actually going to do you any harm. Salt is everywhere. Our bodies are full of salt. But because Robin was given specific advice based on her being huge and having these health issues, suddenly everyone has to fall in line. Everyone has to suffer like Robin,
Better believe it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Or water. That's all it does.
So why
so people just get this preoccupation about it.
Do you feel she psychologically feels dirty back there?
They feel like there's something they got there. I don't know. It's different people.
She had anal sex.
You asked Artie.
It's hard to stay quiet while you're getting analyzed, ain't it there, miss? What's Artie on? He's been talking to.
She was abused sexually, number one. Number two, she had anal sex at several occasions at a young age.
So you can see that way.
Occasions at not a young age. Don't be
in
ridiculous.
your 20s.
Well, so I waited till I was in my 20s.
Music.
Yeah.
Look who's defensive.
And not a lot of anal sex. Stop that.
A little bit of anal.
A smidge.
A little goes a long way.
This used to irritate me so much. You would see the original broadcast, and then you'd hear the music that they really used, like whatever it was, but it was copywritten, obviously. And so to save money, these cheap shitheads pick this, Amway style, Amway version of whatever, piano line, because they just don't want to pay for the thing that you originally heard. And it's jarring. It's so annoying. Anyway.
It's terrible. Yeah. Do you remember, do you remember they would have on Howard TV, they would have clips, and they would clearly, they were playing like a song parody. I remember there was one with Led Zeppelin that was a brilliant one. Yep. And because they couldn't afford to use Led Zeppelin, they just got it was like they went to Sal at 5 o'clock on a Friday evening and said, you've 10 minutes. Can you just do something? Yeah. And he just did this ba 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 booey, just this awful Baba Booey thing that he clearly, had no interest in doing. But just to save, how much would they have saved, Fillmore? How much money did they save?
In terms of the copyright stuff, like the copyright rate per, for song on Sirius, it might have been substantial enough that if it were replayed enough, it would cut into their. It would be significant. Also, it would depend who it was. Like Zeppelin commands massive royalty rates.
So when it's played on,
please go ahead.
Sorry, but when it's played on Howard's show, obviously that falls under the Sirius licensing agreement, so they can play whatever they want.
To a point, there may be some artists that aren't subscribed to it. Like they may not be part of it. They may have their own thing. Like Prince, before he died, was notoriously tight with his collection. You went on YouTube, songs would disappear. Well, almost as soon as they got up there. The only thing that was left up there originally was, well, a few things that the Warner's was able to put out. But the cover he did of Creep by Radiohead, and it was famous because Tom York said, no, that's our song. You put it back up there. He took it down, but because it was their song, he didn't have the rights to say whether it could be allowed or not. It was his live performance of it. And he was all kind of butthurt. I'm like, well, they're like, no, fuck you. We want that out there. Leave it up. And
That's
he did.
Cool. I didn't know that. Yeah.
Cool. I'm not a Radiohead fan really, but I know loads of people are, and I did think that was kind of cool because he's trying to be the evil empire and control everything, and really, sad because there's so much good stuff. And now, with regard to Prince, they've released all kinds of like demos. A lot of the stuff has already been out there, but they released this one called Originals or something, and it's basically all the stuff that demos that he used to send to the Bangles, to Morris Day, whatever, his versions of Manic Monday and Jungle Love, and they're great. They really are great. Yeah.
I must have a listen. I know that vault has a couple of things have come out, but I'm always worried about stuff coming out that wasn't intended to be released in the first place, because you do have to ask yourself the question:
Is it any good?
It was good. Yeah. If it was good, it'd be out there.
Oh, there's lots of good stuff still yet to come out. I know that for a fact because I illegally got tons of it, unfortunately, over the years. Through bootlegs and compilations. How these other people got it, I have no idea. And I'm presuming disgruntled staffers, people who, ex-musicians that were allowed in the vault or something and maybe did an overnight like acetate and took it with them. Like the Black Album was one of the biggest bootlegs of all time. And it ended up not really being worth it when you did hear it. It was, some interesting stuff. Anyway, sorry guys, music discussion.
More anal sex than I've had heroin.
Do people feel dirty back there?
Yeah, they feel there's something in them, but they get all kinds of preoccupations about it.
Right.
I mean, it's sort of, and if you've been sexually abused, that part of your body is a little cut off from you. It doesn't regulate as a whole.
If Jimmy Florentine banged you, you'd want a colonic.
And so it's a way of trying to control that and regulate.
What can I do to help her through this?
I'm fine, Howard.
She seems great. She really does seem great.
She's better, but she has.
It's working for me.
She seems great, and I need help.
No, she's having a colonic addiction.
You started getting into your wheatgrass implants.
I did it to get off heroin.
I'm gonna vomit.
Should I send her to a rehab?
Yes.
Artie and I'll go to rehab.
She fails one coffee test in her ass.
I'm trying to get off colonics.
Yeah, all right. And we'd say hi, Robin.
Once a week with a colonic is excessive, is it not, Doctor?
It's now Fred with those fucking sound drops. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, it was about Robin's anal story.
Yeah.
Do you believe that happened?
Well, it wasn't in the book, but they claimed for the years, and this is how you know none of those fucking nudniks read her goddamn book, the first one. She claimed it happened in whatever San Francisco, and where else would it happen, right? But maybe they thought she was a dude. I think that I don't know if I can't say. Knowing how much of a bullshit artist she is, it seems like a silly thing to bullshit about.
It does, yeah. Was this the same time that she shit her pants jogging? Was that a separate?
That was separate, and that was somewhere in. Yeah, it was somewhere in New York actually when that happened. God, when I heard that story, what was it? God, they were talking about it, and she she shit her pants, and then there were two different situations where she was wearing stockings as well. She had to throw out the whole lot.
Oh my God.
God, I can't even imagine.
God, that's yeah. As long as they weren't white pants, that's the main thing.
Oh my Lord.
I think any with the colonic is excessive because I mean, here's the thing I always say.
I
just
can help you feel so much better.
I feel great. We do you've had colonoscopies, right?
Sure.
I've had colonoscopies.
And you will do what?
And when you do colonoscopies, you have to make sure there's not a speck of anything in the colon because you have to examine.
And how much do you go?
And you feel like hell after that prep.
Yes.
I mean, it makes you feel
the prep
awful.
is tough. Yeah.
Yeah, but you feel
What
awful
are you taking?
And this has become Robin's whole life. She's obsessed with this.
It's working for her.
Yeah.
Just to make Artie feel better so he's not yelling at you when Dr. Drew leaves, you have to end this way.
Right.
Do you think your kids are 16 now?
Yeah.
What are they? Boys, girls?
2 boys, a girl.
Okay. Do you think any one of them has started drinking yet?
I don't think so, but I'm got my radar on.
You do?
Yeah.
But how do you have the radar on? How do you monitor?
What are you going to do?
What are you
going to try everything.
Do you think they're sexual yet? You think they've had sex yet?
No.
You sure about that?
I'm pretty sure about that, yeah. They're talking about that.
How old are they?
16.
I just know your kids, from being your kids, are bigger celebrities than anyone you've had on Celebrity Rehab.
So they're going to be
if
targets.
a doctor...
The one thing I got to say is actually more related to the colonics thing that Robin, she was insisting on doing. I looked up more into it, and I was something that I had only read in passing was absolutely true. Coffee enemas were definitely something for cancer. It was considered something of a cancer cure, a holistic thing back in the day, and it carried over to where people, whether they have cancer or not, would still do it thinking it's going to, clean out their fucking back door. They make it seem like they've got a Sherman tank up their ass. If you're impacted that bad, get a suppository, eat more fiber. Howard at 65 discovering fucking fiber is one of the most asinine things I've ever heard, considering how much money he has to have a private physician look after him all the time. Why wouldn't you know about this by that age?
He just gets these ideas, and he has these little fears in his brain that just foment, and they become these neurotic preoccupations. And he's got loads of them, and he's obsessed with the ass. He's always going on about his own ass and getting his prostate checked, and I mean he must get that checked every week.
There's always some kind of ass play commentary during the show. More recently, he redid an old favorite. Like he went into the jukebox and pulled out this nugget. Pardon the expression, and he said, "I have a buddy. He's a massage therapist or whatever, and every housewife he's ever massaged has always at some point one of his fingers was knuckle deep in her asshole. She wanted it." Every time I hear it, I think, and you're just sad you weren't one of those housefrows. Yeah. That's all that comes to mind. Number one, and I think it was complete horse shit.
Yeah, but he's such a great conversationalist, Howard. Can you imagine being at a dinner party and someone starts talking like that? You're sitting there eating, looking at him going, this guy is a moron.
Right. He slammed the door on the mute wherever the music is because he just want to hear it. And it's too cold. Close the windows, Can we get this done in the next 10 minutes because I got to get the fuck out of here? That kind of house guest.
But Howard makes me laugh. My wife doesn't. My wife loathes him, and she said to me the other day, "Oh, I see Howard Stern is in the news. He's getting in fights with people, and there's people pulling up footage of him on Twitter, and he says he's woke, and he's." And I looked it up, and I had to laugh because I just thought it's classic Howard, in that. He said, what are the issues that make him woke? He said, I approve of people being transgender. What a brave original stand to take, Howard. You are such a trailblazer. And what was the other one?
I believe in the vaccine.
I believe in the vaccine. I'm against Trump. Oh, you know what I mean? I've never heard anyone say, like, what's his opinion? Trump is not fit for office. I've never heard that before. I mean, it's unbelievable. And this extends out to everything. Like, Howard is incapable of any kind of original talk because he just doesn't care about anything. He has no interest, curiosity, or care about anything. So when he wants to get a musician in to interview, it's not like he has a load of them in his head that he'd like to speak to. That, it's like, I want Paul Simon, he famous. You know what I mean? It's like, you idiot. Can you not pick anyone else that like, and then he gets someone else to write the questions for him. And he's there. Like, the only thing he's interested in is, money and dick.
And father
he thinks
issues.
and he thinks he's Dick Cavett. And he'll never be Dick Cavett.
He's definitely Dick. He's definitely Dick. But look, the Paul's like it's possible you and I will do the Paul Simon interview together because I'm still curating all the clips and what have you. But and the things that I love more recently in the last, God, I'm going to say 5 years, but really even fewer possibly. Maybe the last 3 have been all about what is that guitar string? Like what are you doing right now? Oh, I'm finger picking, like, oh, what's that? Oh, this is called this is called a wah pedal, Howard. And when I step on it, these things that if he was any kind of rock DJ, this is why you don't let him anywhere near a music store, because it would be like him walking into a fucking like a library, the Library of Sanskrit or something like that. There's no reason for him to be near musicians, talking to them, because he knows sweet fuck all. And it's disingenuous for him to keep going on about this rock and roll thing. What was that one clip I sent you? He goes, yes, I like this. Who is this, Fred? Moby.
Yeah. And then the next question is, why is this so good, Fred?
Right.
He has no curiosity. That's the core of everything. And I think it's the core of everything in life. That if you end up being good at something, and that could be something like cooking or anything, it always starts with a curiosity. You go out for dinner somewhere and you get a meal and you go, wow, that tastes amazing. I'd love to know how the chef made that. Absolutely. And then next time you're making something, you think, I might try and replicate this, because you're curious. You want to know how it was done and you want to enjoy it. Howard doesn't have any of that kind of natural curiosity about anything. No, I mean, he really is a dullard.
Well, he has curiosity about his mother's big panties, or underpants, as he calls them. He has curiosity about the anus, more specifically the male anus, like scat stories, dirty shit, how much money people make. It's like a 12-year-old boy, before he discovers actual sex, is all like concerned with just about, who has the fastest car, like, Jesus, who's got the best game system, who's got the nicest bike, the shiniest bike, the most expensive one, the shallowest possible shit. And yet people are still going on saying the great interviewer. And some of these people are doing these interviews. Who the fuck told Paul Simon this will be a great thing?
Yeah, he's got a huge audience, 30,000 people. I mean, that's probably how many listened. But I think with Howard, this whole woke thing that he's doing, whatever you want to call it, pandering to the left, basically. The only reason he's doing this is to ingratiate himself with these shitheads in the Hamptons and these vacuous assholes out in Hollywood. 100%. So he can get George Clooney in. But, the reality is, Howard, that if you had someone like George Clooney, or say someone who's, smart and well-traveled, and you would be flapping around like a fish out of water, because you have no life experience. You've never traveled anywhere. You've never read a book in your life. You watch the shittest television ever created. You don't listen to music. You don't cook. You don't.
Could you imagine him striking up a conversation? There's a famous picture of him laughing with Harvey Weinstein.
Yeah.
Okay. God only knows. I to have been a fly in that enclave, to look at these two airheads with this total, they're 3 creeps. One's Beth. Yeah. But really, those 2 assholes listening to somebody's anecdote and laughing. It couldn't have been because either of them said anything interesting.
It's the fakest, most disturbing, awful-looking photo you've ever. I mean,
it's horrible.
It's horrible. These are horrible people, Phil. Or really horrible. I mean, all these celebrities as well. They're just awful people, like Alec Baldwin and Meghan Markle and all these people. They're just shitheads. They really are. We're not living in a golden era of celebrity. We really aren't.
There's someone sent me a meme yesterday that I'm sure has made the rounds. It's ancient, but it's Alec Baldwin on Sesame Street, and he's right next to Grover, who's opening the door, but he's got, one arm outside the door holding onto it. And the meme said something like, Grover checking around to see that there are no loaded guns in the room. They go, that was what these pictures, that's what the idea of a meme was designed for, that kind of thing. With Howard, you could meme until your fingers turned blue.
Yeah. Yeah. And when I think of Alec Baldwin now, I always think of him standing there going, she was my friend. She was my friend. Remember that? It's all about him.
It was great.
And you know what? It's the same as Drew. it's the same as Drew here saying, I don't want to do celebrity rehab anymore because I've finally realized that I don't want to get the blame for all the people dying. So so it wasn't some kind of moral, he didn't reach an impasse or a kind of a point where he realized that this show may have been a little bit, little bit on the nose, maybe wasn't the right thing to do. He thought that the real tragedy here is not that the world has been robbed of Mike Starr or Jeff Conaway, is that I'm getting blamed for it. That's the real tragedy. And again, he has he has a bit of gall going. I am grateful to Drew for giving us that wonderful 34 segment. He's another narcissist deep down, I think. A lot of these people are, to get on the radio and to be celebrity, you probably need to have a fair degree of that in your character, I think.
I don't believe that there's anything intrinsically wrong with it if it's taken the right way. If you have everything around you, everything about you other than that is balanced. And you do have to have some sort of, if not ego, then confidence. And there's a fine line between both. And the best celebs, like the ones that come off the best, are very unassuming. You read about them. Usually you read about their good deeds, like the happy blinds, the kindness blinds, like George Clooney giving $1 million to all of each of his close friends, like a suitcase like that, or Keanu Reeves buying motorcycles for everybody on all the staff, the crew and stuff, or Gandolfini asking for more money for The Sopranos, passing that extra money on to the other people who wouldn't get any fucking raises because they were locked in. These are
John
the kind
Candy.
of people. John Candy, oh my God, loads of stories about him being such a overly generous person. And but yet they would have had some level of ego about them because they were good at what they did. People liked them, and something that kind of feeds the ego a little bit as well. But if you don't have the goods, then you get Shuley. You have all the ego and none of the talent.
Oh yeah, Jesus! Let's not go down that road now.
No, we will not go down that stupid.
I could even just to mention his name, I can feel my systolic blood pressure just starting to rise up. But
we have something special planned that we're going to do about that, guys. It has nothing to do really with the Dabbleverse at all.
Yeah, thankfully. But I think just going back to what you were saying, I think it is important that you separate out narcissistic character traits, which we all have to some degree, and then actual narcissism, like a full diagnosis, which is what I think Howard has, which is ultimately one of the main characteristics of that is just a complete. He's just incapable of being happy. He'll never be happy.
It's and even so it's that point that leads me to ask, all those times, all those years, all those clips, listening to him laugh at some anecdote or a joke on the show and hearing him guffaw at like some arty bits that he was supposedly dying laughing. I mean, it seemed like it, but was he laughing because he found it funny, or was he laughing because he thought he had to?
It's hard to know. I think he definitely found some things funny.
Sure.
Genuinely. I think some of Artie's stories he loved. But again, Howard cried laughing at the airplane joke that Shuley told. So that tells you everything you need to know. And Peter Sellers wasn't a genius.
Of course
not.
That's
the type of.
Why are you attacking the guy?
I'm not attacking the guy. I'm just trying to
help.
I admire what he does. I admire what he does in theory.
I can tell.
Okay? No, I do. You're a doctor. You help people. You're clearly a nice guy. You're a good guy. If you're not Dr. Phil,
right,
sexually misconducting people.
It's all right. I come all over the place. All right, listen.
What?
No, Dr. Drew was just using my hand sanitizer, and it shoots all over the place. It hits me in the face.
You said I come all over the place.
Yeah, it looks like
that's what he said.
It's like always getting one in the face. All right, Dr. Drew Pinsky on Sober House. It's a big show. I watch it. I will enjoy this. It's a offshoot of Celebrity Rehab.
And you are Mr. Perfect. He has nothing wrong with him.
I didn't say that.
Nothing
Mr.
that's 20 years of therapy.
I get 3 treatments a week of therapy.
Say you know a guy, Dr. Drew.
Psychiatry.
3 times a week, that's a big deal.
That's right.
That's the real deal.
He's very sick.
And I'm in there dealing with a lot of issues. And I don't like going. I don't enjoy it, but I know I need to do it.
Interesting. I don't like going,
really interesting.
but I need to. I need to go. Well, why? Why do you need to? Why don't you like going? Because it implies that, first of all, when you go, you imply that you're less than perfect. First, you need this. The idea that you need anything. It's like Sal getting upset that I've been busted. I have a comedy coach. This wasn't natural genius. Howard, I'm not all that. I have these neuroses. Well, he made a career out of bragging about these fucking neuroses. So why shouldn't you be happy? You claim on these later interviews, it may be a better father, a better husband, whatever. Like I know the bullshit flies fast and furious. You need like a checklist to keep up with it all. And 3 days a week. Do you believe he goes at all anymore?
No, I don't. And I think this is fascinating because you see Drew's eyes widen there. He's really excited by this. Yeah. Wow, that's the real deal. That's the real deal. And he's looking at him. And let's look at what Howard is now. Let's look at how he manages his life, and let's ask ourselves, what did he get for those millions upon millions of dollars that he plowed into therapy? I mean, I tell you what he did get, and this is all you'll get because if you're such a sick fuck like Howard is, this is all you'll ever get out of therapy, which is cognitive empathy. And just trained behaviors based on how I should act in a situation. This is how I blend in with society. This is how people who have empathy react. That's all he learned. He didn't. Yep. You cannot fix someone like Howard. He's sick.
He's Patrick
and he'll
Bateman.
never be fixed. And he was totally taken for a ride, as many people are. But there is the allure of I'm going to be a better person and I'm going to fix myself. Mm-hmm. But I'm sorry, I think with someone like Howard, you cannot fix it.
Yeah, well, I'm certain that 10 years after GTD, that's gone too.
Oh yeah,
like his emails have piled up. Marcy Turk might be part of it. I mean, there's still vestiges of whatever that change wrought, but it's nothing that's self-sustaining.
If you look at any of these, you can see it even in Scientology. When you go into these auditing sessions, you will get there's an elation after it for 2 to 3 days. This is what everyone talks about. Mm-hmm. And you'll also get that with therapy as well, because L. Ron Hubbard actually stole a lot from Freud in terms of what's in Scientology. There's a huge kind of crossover in the auditing. And there is this high you get for a couple of days, but it just wears off. It wears off, and you need to go back in again. And it is like an addiction. And I think that's probably what Howard was going on with Howard. I think he found it kind of. I mean, look, he's the type of person that loves going into a room and talking about himself for an hour.
Yes,
that's him.
So you're on board with. There's no way, even if they don't. If let's say Sirius says, "Oh fuck you, this is the last contract." You don't think there's any way he's not going to put together some kind of podcast and put it out there?
I think he might, but there's a couple of things that will really be important. He doesn't want anyone knowing how many people are actually listening. So he's not going to want any situation where there's a view count. He's not going to want any situation where he could be in direct competition with someone who wiped the floor with him. So it's going to have to be a very carefully structured thing. Like what he may end up doing is just setting up his own website and having an RSS feed or whatever coming from that.
Well, that's what I think it would be. It wouldn't be like he wouldn't allow anything on YouTube. He'd direct more traffic to his own thing if he thinks. But the other thing is he couldn't, if he did go on YouTube or maintained a YouTube channel, he would pay, he couldn't rightfully pay for listeners or pay for subs and then expect like people aren't going to look at, wow, it says here 50 million subs and yet this has only 100,000 views. You know what I mean? Like the metrics work against him on that platform as well. Yeah. So I think he can't go without some kind of presence. And if he doesn't have it, that the only time that'll happen is when he dies.
Well, when is his current contract up?
I think Jay was asking me about this recently. So he started in 2006. He signed it when he signed it is irrelevant. It was 2004, October or so. But it went from 2006 and it was 5 years. So 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, going into 2011. I think. Hold on. Let me see if I got this right. 2000. So it starts 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Contract year 2011. And then re-signed. So then it goes. Yeah, I would say so.
Yeah, because if it's in 5-year increments, the original contract started in 2006. So if he was to sign up again, that would start in 2026. I'm just thinking of it that way.
I think that's how it's going to work. Yeah, basically, and the way a lot of people see it, and I think so too, reduced to like Monday and Tuesday or Monday and Wednesday, that kind of thing. 2 days a week, Monday and Friday. Who knows how it'll be, but it won't. Well, he's not going to give up his long, 4-day, 5-day weekend, but he might just go down to 1 day a week because he wants to still be out there.
And so he will be just operating as he is now, out of his panic room wank dungeon. Yeah, yeah. And he'll have Gary on Zoom or whatever it is.
Yep.
And whoever else, I don't know who else is on the show anymore, but I assume it's awful.
Well, we're going to have Sam and I are discussing. We're going to have a special show that we're recording. By this time, you guys will have already. By the time you hear this, it'll already be scheduled in the rotation. But we're going to put together the lawsuits. There's a bunch of recent lawsuits that Sirius is having, and it's going to be a bit more technical, I suppose, as part of a breakdown. But it's not looking good for them. One of them includes a $28 billion. I'm not joking. $28 billion class action lawsuit about hidden fees that they included in some of these free car subscriptions.
Okay, hang on. Do you mean this is against Sirius from members of the public or general public?
You got it. Oh, $28 billion, and they don't have. If they had to settle for half or a quarter, they'd still go bankrupt.
Oh God.
And we looked into it. One of the things, Al W sent me a screen cap of the numbers for 2022, and Sirius spent, according to the numbers, $546 million total on programming. If he's Mr. $120 million a year, that means he's 20% of their operating budget for programming. No fucking way. Yeah. If he's $10 million a year, and I say that's pushing it, that's generous. That would be a lot for him.
Yeah, I don't get it. It does not make sense. I noticed, Donald Trump put out a thing on his, I don't know what he has his own kind of
Truth Social.
Truth Social.
Yeah.
He put out a post on that where he could have gone into more detail. He just it was all personal attacks, but
yes,
he did hint about Howard's money being nothing like what the public have been led to believe. He made some reference to Howard really doesn't get paid much at all, and I would totally believe that.
Oh, 100%. Like we've done, me and Bring Back Jackie and on the Twitter, we go back and forth about the finances stuff, and he's clearly, we talked about this a little bit, Sam and I. They put him on the premium channel because if they put him as one of the opt-out channels, for example, that no one would pick him. They add him to the package so that when you go for baseball, whatever on Sirius, he comes with it like an add-on. As I've said before, he's the anchor store in a mall. No one buys anything there. It's taking up all this fucking real estate, and it looks big, it looks impressive, but people just don't bother with it anymore. He's like that. He's a barnacle now.
Yeah, it's like when you're at a buffet and there's one of the dishes there has like a skin on it, like a film, and you're just like, nah, I'll leave that. So if anything's a la carte, no one's going to pick him.
Right. He's potato salad. There might be a couple behemoths going in to look after it, but most people going to go right straight to the steak. The steak is one of the sports channels or something else. Yes. Something else like whoever else is more popular on that station. Anyway, let's continue and try to get through a bit more of this.
Like you're very whole. You're whole now. I mean, you're very tuned into
and I'd have to deal with these two.
You got to be whole.
And Fred's a whole nother case.
Oh, we didn't even get into Fred.
Fred has a lot of issues.
Dr. Drew, say there's a guy who's hit the pinnacle of his career. Like a legendary guy. There's nothing else you could do.
Works on radio.
He's amazing, right? Everybody loves him, and
everybody doesn't love him.
When he goes to,
I'm hated by a lot of people.
When he goes to, how do you know I'm talking about you?
Because I got a feeling I'm about to get slammed.
Talking about Iman.
Right.
And then he goes to. He's gotten so big that they ask him to ring the stock exchange bell in the morning. Okay.
That could happen to you.
When he goes there, he wears gloves because he's afraid there's germs on the bell. And he wears gloves.
Not on the bell. I had to shake people's hands.
He had to shake people's hands.
You're not telling the story properly.
Okay. What's that about? What's the germ thing about?
It's OCD.
It's a common thing. It's OCD.
I have it.
You don't claim that you're cured of that?
I've gotten rid of a lot of the symptoms of OCD, but I do still suffer from the germ fear.
Okay, I don't know enough about this, and I should have read into this, but I don't remember this aspect of it. In my estimation, if you get rid of it, you get rid of it. Are there aspects of OCD you cannot get rid of? I suppose it's possible, but I don't believe it. I don't. First of all, he was never diagnosed with it.
No, and I think with OCD is one of those topics that is very hard to get a clear read on because there's different interpretations of it and how it manifests and where it comes from. I think with Howard, it's just a generalized anxiety and a neuroses that he has. He's agoraphobic. He doesn't like any situation where he's not in complete control. And that means leaving the fucking front door. I mean, he's not comfortable going outside because, well, there's a car driving by and I don't know who that guy is and he might take a photo of me or whatever. Yeah. So I just think he has generalized anxiety and you know, he's sick and like he can't even go around to Gary's house for dinner without just being an absolute nightmare. Like, so the only time he's comfortable is, like I said, down in his panic room with, you know, in his wank dungeon with his accoutrement. You know, he doesn't want to leave. So I don't know whether he has OCD. That's the, you know, I really don't.
Yeah, I've never bought it, and I love Artie's line. Oh, like a germophobia. I think he fingered Kendra Jade. And then Gary goes, Gary getting the big balls because Artie said that. He goes, he touched Houston's tits on a regular basis. And I'm like, so you guys just basically destroyed your boss's whole bullshit argument. He clearly doesn't have germ phobia. Somebody who had germ phobia would not touch a fucking stripper with a 10-foot pole.
He has women phobia, I think.
Well, that for sure, yeah. Jesus Christ.
Some of it is a biological thing. I mean, some of it is just in his brain chemistry, and it's, you know, you just learn to live with it and deal with it,
and
man.
we have to deal with this mental patient every day.
No,
Just
I go
think
to therapy.
about that when you're talking about my colonic.
I have a psychiatrist. I don't lay it on you.
At least he has tried.
God, like,
you must be
we
an
don't have to
analysis.
deal with you.
I'm in psychoanalysis.
Yeah, you're in analysis, yeah.
Talk to all of us who have been traumatized for years.
I've always wanted to go back and do.
Why is it awesome, Drew?
Yeah, and just see his eyes there.
He went like he kind of shifted a little bit, like it almost looked like, oh, so I can fucking take a big bite out of your wallet by convincing you of some bullshit as well.
Yeah, but well, Drew's probably looking at Howard going, this guy's a mark. I can get, you know, this guy will believe anything if he believes in, you know. But and look how interested he is because Robin starts talking and Drew just talks right over it, just tramples all over here.
Oh yeah.
Got into therapy.
About doing it.
You're thinking of going to therapy? It's a big
wonderful.
step.
Yeah,
you should do it.
Yeah,
you should do it.
Do it on TV.
I did years of therapy to be able to deal with these.
Would you do it on TV? You should do it on TV. I'd love to see that.
But we went through hell before he got treated.
All right, good for you. All right, listen, Dr. Drew.
Yes.
One day you and I will talk alone without these mental cases interrupting.
This has been a pleasure, though, really, through and through.
True pleasure. Thank you.
You guys, all of you.
Love seeing you. We love the show. Continue.
Thank you for the support.
Dr. Drew, wish me luck with Artie's problems.
Good luck, Artie. I really do wish you the best, man. I hope you don't have to get too close to the
Dr. Drew, thank you, and I wish you the best with the sober house and then maybe the celebrity funerals.
Just, you know, it really.
Oh God.
He's not going to quit. He's not going to quit.
No, he's not.
I know when one of them dies, celebrity funeral.
It really had, and you know somebody could die, right? I mean, it's a deadly disease.
And then celebrity funeral is the perfect.
Will Artie make it or not? Your prediction based on the hostility you're seeing,
Where is he in recovery based on what you've seen?
Will Artie make it?
Will Artie make it?
Artie Lange, too fat to
be
fish.
honest.
Pick it up.
It's too heartbreaking for me. I'm an optimist, and I feel sort of connected to this guy after reading all this stuff. It's hard for me to say other than I'm hopeful, and just the question is how this energy, man. Where's that? When is that going to let go of that? That's the part I didn't anticipate.
I'm a performer.
This is new.
I'm a performer. This is not new. It's not new. Look, you go to the old.
It's an aggression that has to be like, oof.
He's very angry.
Dealt with, yeah. And
you're damn right I'm angry, but so is Lenny Bruce.
The aggression now that.
Oh God, the comparison to Lenny Bruce. Oh God,
he does that. Yeah.
Yeah, you know, like you're not Lenny Bruce, you're not Richard Pryor, you're not George Carlin.
Nowhere on. You're not in the same universe. I mean, your stand-up is horrible. I love Artie, but his stand-up is horrible.
Yeah,
horrible.
Shit.
Yeah,
it is. Now, mind you, I mean, like he It's funny. Jeff Ross kind of took it over as the Lord of the Roast for some fucking reason. He's good. He's talented. But
He's
that's
good,
like
he's good.
he is a one-trick pony. And I suppose I should say that about Don Rickles, my idol. But Don Rickles as a raconteur, as just a guy to sit down with, he's fucking hysterical. I don't get that from listening to Jeff Ross. Jeff Ross literally has to write jokes for an occasion and say them and perform them. Don's funny just talking.
True, yeah.
You know, he's that line of his when he was talking to Larry King. You go, did you fire at the Japanese? No. I shut out our own men to relax. You know,
but I know what you mean, right? And I totally agree. But I think at the end of the day, you know, you're only good at what you're good at, and if you're good at writing jokes and you totally lean into that, but good for you. I think what Jeff Ross has done is just play to his strengths. And I got to say, Fillmore, he's written some jokes, and I have been crying that. Like, do you remember the Joan Rivers roast in Comedy Central? And Jeff Ross gets up and he said, and like he goes, look at this lady, she's a cougar, Freddy Krueger. You know, he said Joan is the only woman who can be found on both Craig's and Schindler's List.
Yes, it was a great joke.
It's some great jokes. Like,
my absolute favorite was he did the Jerry Lewis Friars Club roast. He said, you know, what about all the philanthropic things that Jerry Lewis has done? Like, for example, you know, with like Jerry's kids. Just recently, one of Jerry's kids, for the first time ever, got up out of his wheelchair and walked over to the TV to turn off the Jerry Lewis telethon. And he said Lewis fucking died. He almost died. He did have a heart attack that night, and it wasn't from that joke. But that's you know, that it doesn't get any better than that. And everybody they were backslapping. I mean, like, great, unbelievable joke.
You know, didn't we talk about, like, you know, the biggest shitheads in this, and the worst people in music and I don't know whether we mentioned before, and I don't know whether I talked about this on the podcast before, but Jerry Lewis, dude, is the biggest, like, probably the biggest arsehole of the 20th century who's ever stood in front of a camera. I mean, I didn't realize about the RAPE. I don't want to say something that's going to get this banned or whatever, but apparently he there's a load of women that have come forward and claimed that he.
There's a Vanity Fair video. It's a bunch of interviews. That's the one you're talking about. It's maybe 8 minutes long, perhaps. Yeah, I've seen it. And but there was an interview he did not long before he passed away, bragged about how many women he fucked, a lot of his leading ladies and stuff back in the day. He definitely did a lot of Me Too stuff that would have got him canceled in a heartbeat in 2017. But and maybe one of the most talented, but obviously one of the biggest shitheads of his generation. Like on a Bob Hope level.
Do you remember? There was a great clip again. Gilbert's. I sometimes go back into Gilbert's podcast, and it's just an absolute goldmine.
It is.
And I went. Do you know the guy who sang the song, the Pina Colada song, "Escape"?
I know the song.
Holmes.
Okay.
Rupert Holmes, right? So he was on the show, and I knew the name Rupert Holmes, and I said, "What the hell is he?" So I listened to it. And Rupert Holmes was actually a writer, and he was involved in show business and he just, again, he's another kind of Bruce Valanche type, just a load of great anecdotes, a very funny guy. But he told stories about Richard. He knew Richard Lewis, and there's just he's just horrific, an absolute
Richard
tyrant.
Lewis or Jerry Lewis?
Sorry, Jerry Lewis. Apologies.
Because we love Richard.
Jerry Lewis. I love Richard Lewis.
He reached out actually recently. I messaged him on Twitter. I have a little ongoing thing with him on Twitter, and I'm hoping to get him on the show.
Wow.
Because he got diagnosed with Parkinson's. And,
that's right.
And he's just clearly not going to be able to perform, and he's got to be like 75 now, whatever. But he's still got his brain about him, and I told him to just keep tweeting, keep tweeting until you can't do anymore.
I loved him on Curb, but I just think he's great. But so anyway, Rupert Holmes tells the story about Jerry Lewis used to go on. Who was the guy who had the chat show in the 70s? There was a few of them. There was obviously Johnny Carson. There was Dick Cavett, but there was a lighthearted guy. There was a guy, he died in the 90s. Merv Griffin. Yes, I think he was on Merv Griffin. And Jerry Lewis was talking about all his technology and his phones. And I have this. And there was a guy on kind of showing off technology. And Jerry was just jumping in the whole time saying, I have one of those. He was just so braggadocious and it just a repellent kind of personality. On any of these shows, he's so arrogant and mean, and he really is a Hall of Famer, I think.
Well, Dave Thomas, who I love from SCTV, obviously, and he was on the show, and he had one of the best episodes because he's just very, very well spoken and funny and forthright. He doesn't hold back much. And he talked about Jerry, and he goes, "This is my theory about Jerry." I don't know if you heard this one, but after the Nutty Professor broke big, and he got all kinds of he said he got incredible amount of fan mail for the character Buddy Love, who was just a complete piece of shit. It was like they go, it's meant to be Dean Martin. He goes like, no, Dean was a gentleman. Dean was never that crass and stuff. And he got so much fan mail. Dave thinks that he never wanted to be anybody else after that. And that's exactly who he became, Buddy Love, for the rest of his life. When he was on interview shows, when you see him on Cavett, that's who he's playing, Buddy Love.
Oh, he's awful. That's a great theory, though, isn't it?
It is. And there's one interview that I don't know if it's part of some DVD collection, but and you could just see like even the lead in, whatever, I can't remember what it's called, but it's when he did Damn Yankees on Broadway in the mid 90s. And there's 4 parts, about a half hour each. And the person who's interviewing him knows him personally. So he's going to play ball, but I think it was done for the purposes of that production. Like he was doing almost promo for it to help it along. And it's a great, great interview, but he claims some things in it that are attributed to other people. Like Sammy Davis Jr. wasn't able to, eat, in the public area, of the Vegas, whatever hotels before he went to the management. And before Sinatra went to the management and said, he comes out with either you give him the same rights you give everybody else, because he was eating in his dressing room. He wasn't allowed to eat in the fucking restaurant. And he goes, or I'm going to expose this to the world. And they changed the rules. And of course, Sammy and his brothers were his members of his entourage. They were allowed to, of course, be what everybody else was doing. Wow. Jerry claimed that he was the one who did that, but I believe it was Sinatra who did it.
Well, I suppose if this was the mid 90s, I know Sinatra died in 97, so maybe Sinatra had passed, and you get to the point where
he just took the story for himself.
Took the story, yeah.
I believe so. I think he pulled a Howard essentially, yeah. So yeah, he's a notorious, and again, there's one friend of mine, and the two of us are like, we're looking at we have like a Google alert set up for the day the clown cried becomes public, available for public consumption. I will watch. There's nothing I have more anticipation to watch than that.
Yeah, Harry Shearer must have seen it.
Yeah, he did. And he talked about it on Stern's show as well, but that's not enough. I need to see it.
No, yeah.
He's off substance.
It gets worse. Yeah, of course.
He's very aggressive.
And that's got to be it's exhausting. If it's somewhere,
would you cuddle him?
I would cuddle him.
My agent just blackberried me about negotiating the celebrity rehab deal.
Did your hat going there today?
Great. I love those guys.
Now, is there hope for Artie?
I am very hopeful for Artie. Oh my God, I get spooked just seeing his picture over there, isn't it? It's got to be.
That was 50 pounds ago.
He did, though, even in the little bit of interaction, it kind of burned me out, so I can imagine what you guys have to put up.
Oh, that's why I want to ask you. I thought everything you said was right on the money, but just in 60 seconds or less, because I know you're in a rush, explain to me again why we shouldn't get so upset with him and how we should treat him in that respect, because you understand how upsetting it is to people.
I didn't say you shouldn't get upset. I said you shouldn't be aggressive and mistreat him. You should be sensitive to the fact that he a lot of that aggression is a cover for a deep sensitivity, and he's carrying this very profound core of pain.
So
but you should cultivate the word whatever, because whatever, if he doesn't, and you should hold him accountable.
So we shouldn't be so aggressive, but
just matter of fact about stuff, but make consequences.
You're shaking your head.
Yeah, I look, the cognitive dissonance here. Like, Drew is being incredibly dishonest here, because he knows that Howard is enabling Artie. He knows that this isn't all on Artie, and that you need to treat him a certain way. The elephant in the room here is that Howard is the boss of the place, and he calls the shots, and he dictates everything, right? Mm-hmm. And Howard is enabling Artie. Certainly. By turning his addiction into a bit, by encouraging to be and saying these things like, I love out of control people, and then claiming to not know what's really going on. But Drew knows that. He's not stupid, but he's choosing not to rock the boat because he wants to preserve his relationship with Howard.
Yep. He's playing sly.
Yeah.
Yep. And you're right. And the other thing is, of course, that he, with that what was the name of that podcast? The Vortex, the Howard Stern Vortex that he put together.
Christ,
Maybe, it wouldn't surprise me. And I think we mentioned it in the previous episode that he was angling for a show on Sirius XM.
Yeah.
And, if I can get in with Howard, all of a sudden I'm Keith Abloh. You know what I mean? Like I'll make myself the next, Dr. Phil.
No, yeah, they really gave Howard a full and frank assessment in that podcast with challenging topics such as what makes Howard a genius?
Yeah.
Is he the greatest interviewer of all time?
They should have just called it the Colonoscopy Podcast.
Yeah.
Fuck it. The Arscast.
Because even when he was talking to you about how many days he missed, he wasn't really being forthcoming.
Hey, whatever. Whatever.
So I should just say.
So if about that, whatever.
So if he was supposed to be here for 2 days and then he wasn't here for 2 days,
then you do whatever you do with an employee that doesn't.
But see, the problem is we don't do anything.
That's a problem.
It is a problem.
That's your problem, though, not his.
Right. Right. We don't do anything. We're like whatever. Okay.
He's too good. You guys, he's got you where he wants you.
I know.
Right.
Yep.
So he just gets away with it. He knows he can get away. He'll push it to wherever he can push it.
Yep.
So what should we do?
Whatever you do as an employee.
We should.
Okay, hold on. The guy holding the microphone has a Spock tunic on. I just noticed that here. Let me put it back. You can see the gold trim. It's a Spock thing from Star Trek.
That's Lisa G.
And she's also there. I don't think that's her though. I think that's.
It looks like. Are you sure?
It might be her. I don't know. Maybe she's maybe she's a Trekkie.
This is Drew's. That's as close as Drew will get to being honest. There, he'll say that you have to do something. He won't say Howard has to do something.
You better believe it.
We should
do what you do. You just say whatever.
There should be consequences for him, and there aren't any.
Right.
And that's a big issue.
Why aren't there any consequences?
Because he's too good.
Well, no, because Artie has always worked for us in a different way in the sense that he's had a deal that he could sort of come and go as he pleases if he ever because he has a movie,
so
he
takes advantage of that.
He does. Yeah. He does.
Okay.
He does not take advantage of it. He takes advantage of the fact that he knows you guys fucking need him more than he needs you. I mean,
look at Gary's
relatively
face.
Speaking. Yeah, Bowie. Fuck. Every move is a picture. Did you? I told Sam about this, and she couldn't believe it. You saw that Bowie with, in the green room with Bill Maher back in the late '90s, early '90s. Isn't that an amazing bit of video?
I watched it 5 times because I just thought this is perfect because it reminds me of a scene in Spinal Tap when they're in the airport and Nigel Tufnell's reading a newspaper and they're trying to talk to him and he's just holding it up to his head and looking over. Clearly isn't like the body language is off the chart with Bill Maher. And also his tone. He's so annoyed by Gary and Gary's questions are so stupid. Like he is proving every joke about him being an idiot. He's proving right. He's slouched over. He's also not understanding. He doesn't want you in the green room. Leave. Yeah, it's amazing. It's incredible.
Yeah, and no sense of where he is, what he's doing, and he's also not there really for a purpose other than let's see if I can maybe network with Bill Maher to get off this fucking awful show.
Yeah.
I think
clearly that's not going to happen based on Bill Maher's body language. That's for sure.
Oh God, it was unbelievable. And I really, that was Bill Maher at his smarmiest, and I can't stand when he gets like that. But in this situation, it was perfect.
Yeah, it was great.
Yeah.
Should Gary do the pee test?
It is Lisa.
No, I already said. I figured if anybody's going to be in there with him, it's got to be me.
Yeah, you should be the one.
And
I listen. The part that I didn't expect is Artie's aggression, and I hope that's sort of a post-acute withdrawal thing because he's still like 2 weeks in.
No, but it's all the time. I mean,
that's exhausting. It's hard to manage that.
I mean, if you notice, he was on the attack on you before you got a word.
Yeah,
I
know.
He knew that you were going to call bullshit on him.
No, well, he was armed and loaded. He was locked and loaded when I walked in. But
no, he knew he was being ambushed.
Yeah, 100%, exactly. And he knows also that you're an exploitative shithead.
That's right. And he knows that Howard doesn't give a fuck about whether he gets well or not. He just wants content for the show.
And this is what they're doing here. They're doing it without you can see Gary's looking around to see if Artie's within earshot of what they're saying because they're just having this little confab here to just it's all confirmation bias, right? And it's all like, oh, this is because Artie's an addict. It has nothing to do with your ulterior motives or our mismanagement and complete plausible deniability to Artie's condition. It's just it's typical though. It's true to form.
Yep.
That's all right. He's a great guy.
You're used to that. You've been on the shit end of that before. That's just the nature of how these things run.
Yeah, but he's you got to see what's really there. You got to let him,
Well, I thought your analysis of him was right on the money. On the money.
Here's the good news: is Howard sees him very clearly too.
He does.
Howard's on it.
Yeah.
So it's not like you guys don't know what you're dealing with. You know what you're dealing with, and God bless him. Pray for him. And
good luck.
Thank
you for the advice.
Appreciate it.
Take care.
Thank you.
Yes, what can I do for you today?
What do you think of Dr. Drew today?
I like Dr. Drew. I've always liked Dr. Drew. Besides all that, I've always thought he was cute.
Do you think he hit this on the head with Artie?
Oh, definitely. He knows addicts and he knows people with drug problems, and I think he was very astute and very right on where Artie was concerned.
No, he was saying out in the hall that a big problem is that you guys don't do anything about Artie.
What? Here we go again. How is it our responsibility?
Well,
what are we supposed to do?
You're a family. You should. I guess he was saying you guys have to.
Does Artie look like me? I don't think so.
He said there should be consequences, maybe like to come up with something like you would do with another employee, maybe dock pay, whatever.
All right, I'm going to say something here because I was talking about this with a friend last night. We have had issues like this before on the show, and there were consequences, and those people still aren't any better off.
Yeah, so let's exploit him while he's on the show. Just keep him on rather than kick him off to the curb. And instead of kicking him to the curb and letting him fall from grace, let's let him fall from grace on the show where we could totally exploit him. And that's the difference. Yeah. That's the solution here.
It is amazing, isn't it, that she says, what are we supposed to do? Now, look, I think I said this on the last episode. In the place where I work, there was a guy who... I don't want to go into more details about it, but he was drinking, right? Mm-hmm. And what happened was the company actually took him aside, had a chat with him, gave him time off, and got him into a treatment, and actually totally helped him. And he's still there. I saw him last week, and he's fine. Great. And look, that's what you do. Yes. When someone that you are who's in your building, who you're paying, and someone who works for you, if they're struggling, you try to get them help. Now you can say that, oh, Artie, they did try. They didn't really. I mean, they allowed him back in, and they knew he was high. I mean, you played that clip. I was listening to the green drink one, and Artie's clearly slurring his words, and he's in an absent, and he's pale, and he just looks horrendous. If you were in a job of work and you saw someone like that, you'd have to say something. Yeah, do something.
100%. Yeah. And not just because you're worried what he's going to do to you or some other people. Yeah. You ultimately you're worried about what he's doing to himself or herself right then at that moment. So from what we heard ages ago, she behind the scenes was pissed off that they were not taking Artie's actions seriously and that no consequences were being leveled. And after the Teddy fight and the Sal thing, especially the Teddy one, she goes, what the F is going on here? Mm. And it's like, and then he came back and he goes, Howard, you want this. And he was bang on. He's like, this is exactly, that was when Artie at that moment could have probably tore down the entire, like he sort of did, but he didn't stay long enough for it to happen. And then Robin should have been right there. They all should have been behind him saying, like, no, Howard, you're responsible for this because you allowed for this. You created the environment for this to happen and you encouraged it to happen.
And what was Howard's response at the time?
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
I was just doodling. I really didn't think you were going to attack him.
Spineless coward.
Yep, 100%.
So I don't agree with the argument that, that tough love that Artie has to be bounced off the show in order to show him that he needs to stop drugs. That is not an automatic that he will get treatment if he's not on this show.
So it has to be all Artie.
People get treatment and stop doing drugs when they're ready to do it.
What do you think of Dr. Drew today, man?
I think the man is going to have to, answer to his maker one day, and I hope he can do that with a clear conscience. Me, I'd be upset if I were him. I'd be getting my clothes ready. I'd be dressing for some warm weather when he dies, for hell, put it that way.
Now, what are you going to do about this piss test? You don't want Gary seeing your dick?
No, and he's not seeing my dick. And if a broad sees my dick, she's fucking going to get it. Well, get a doctor or something.
who's
I'll do
gonna-
it like a trained doctor or something.
So you don't care if it's an MD?
Yeah, what the fuck? Tracy, I'll do it with.
Oh, please.
So Tracy, Lisa G, or a doctor?
No, I don't. Lisa G knows the parameters. If she wants to see it, she'll see it.
It's going in her mouth.
You repeated that, not me. I said that as a joke on the air. Wizinator, you think I have time to install the Wizinator? It takes like an hour to put on.
Even Dr. Drew said to me,
I can't do my hair.
Dr. Drew,
Fuck Dr.
He
Drew.
pulled me over at the end. He goes, "Don't let him piss. Don't let him not piss in front of you."
Then I'm not taking it. So then we have.
So hold on. Who do you?
If you get a doctor, I've done. I get exams in front of a doctor.
All right, so then the doctor I'll bring in to do the test. We'll just watch you piss. I think you'd actually.
Artie's super worried that it's actually going to happen.
Dude, is that John Hine? Is that picture of? Is
that
there
is
a
John
painting
Hine.
of John Hine's face on the wall?
Right, and it looks like something a serial killer would put up on as decor.
Who thought that has to be a joke, right? That can't be.
No,
That's
that's
gotta be a
someone
wind-up.
painted it.
Oh God.
Yep.
Oddly, I thought you'd be more comfortable with me than a stranger.
I don't know. It's not like showering at the gym with guys. You're watching me piss.
So I'll get somebody else that makes you comfortable. Seriously.
It's a real object de chart.
Hey, you think I could fucking do? What do you think I am?
You didn't see Varsity Blues when the guy was getting tested? You didn't see
No,
how
I'm
he had the
straight.
thing in his arm?
I'm straight. I didn't see Varsity Blues. I don't know how to do that. You think I know how to do that?
You're an addict, Artie. You need to be
Oh,
treated
I'm
as
an
such.
addict.
That's what Dr.
You're right.
He said tough love,
I'm
Dr.
not a
Drew said.
magician. I'm an addict. I'm not fucking David Copperfield. I don't have a thing I piss out of. If you're standing right behind me, I can't fuck around. We'll work it out. I'm not. The piss tests are off. Steve, a new headline.
Artie and I had like a weird moment out there because he goes, "Listen, dude,
You're not
for real,
doing it. I'm not doing it.
I'm not pissing in front of you." So I said, "Well,
how are you going to do the test?
and he goes,
to
"What
make
am I,
it
a
legit?
fucking magician?" So he
Listen,
said,
Howard,
he
if
was
someone is
pissing.
standing behind me, I am not David Copperfield.
He said he'll piss in front of a doctor.
I can't like.
A doctor.
I can't like fucking. All right. I picked the doctor.
No, the doctor. I'm gonna
Not
get
one
a
of your
doctor.
friends.
Yeah. I'm gonna get a doctor here anyway.
You want to make
Guys, we got 3 deleted clips. I believe they're deleted, and again, they only make up a total of maybe 5 minutes. So I'm not sure why they thought an hour an hour and 8 minutes of video needed to be less than an hour 13 minutes for the purposes of broadcasting. But here we go. Here's clip number 1.
No.
I was on Dr. Drew's pilot from MTV. Do you remember that, Dr. Drew?
You know, I thought you were.
Yeah.
I was saying you would.
In 1996, the original Love Lines TV show was supposed to be on MTV. So they called over to Mad TV and they said they need guests.
Yes, but here's
so
the comedy.
me, Orlando, and Nicole Sullivan went over, and I said something that made Dr. Drew get completely disgusted. I thought you were going to hit me, punch me in the face. Do you remember what I said?
No.
Well, Adam Carolla, who I just met, this is like 96. I just met him that day.
Right.
And he seemed like a guy, okay, here's the funny guy on the show, you know, and he was joking around. Me, Orlando, and Nicole are sitting there, and they have a studio audience, then they have people calling in.
Right.
So a guy called in, and his sex question was, this was his conundrum. He said, my wife seems to be more attracted to our dog than me. And it's a weird situation, but I'm jealous of the dog. How should I handle this?
Right.
Now, we were told by the producers to try to be funny.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know Dr. Drew was going to answer, and I said, well, sir, can you lick your own balls? That's what I said.
Right.
The audience laughed. Adam laughed, and Dr. Drew went like this. He went... he put his head down in disgust, like he was sobbing.
Right.
And I thought I ruined the show.
That's great. Never heard that.
Yeah, that was edited out. I'm not sure exactly why. And this is clip number 2.
Are you one of these doctors who's in this denial where, and again, God forbid this happens, but if one of your children had a drug problem, would you be so totally surprised by that because of the way you brought them up?
No. No. I've learned to expect anything from anybody.
Right.
So this is the aforementioned clip that I mentioned that they deleted it out, and I wonder if at the end of it, you tell me what you think. I believe he didn't want that in there after the fact. I think he told them, please, could you edit that out about my daughters and putting heroin in their car?
Okay, let it play. Let's have a listen.
All right.
And what I've told my kids, and this is what I tell everybody, and you're not going to like this because addicts don't like to hear this, but all I see all the time is parents who rescue and and don't let people get the treatment they need and stuff. I tell my kids, and I've announced this at the dinner table, is if you get a drug problem, if you do anything illegal, I'm going to drop the axe. My job is just I will break my heart, but I'll drop the axe. If you develop a heroin problem, I will pack your car full of heroin. I'll send you off, and I'll call the cops. I'll give them a license, and I will have your ass arrested so fast. And I will not bail you out, and I'll take you to treatment, and I'll pay for treatment, and that's it.
Right.
And you've got to drop that axe and drop it hard.
Tough love.
And I was going to tell you, the one thing I don't have in celebrity rehab that I use routinely in treatment is the ability to kick people out. The producer's just like, no, please not.
Right.
I would have kicked out.
Good. Who would you have kicked out?
Gary and Tawny and probably Sean. Sean for sure later on.
But Gary had a major change from.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. And so in a way, the non-surrendered addict, those of us that work in addiction, don't do that great a job with, because we have to maintain the integrity of our program.
Where would
we
you
do
get
that by kicking people out?
How many people successfully beat heroin? Let's say 1 out of 10. Is
1 out of 10.
1 out of 10. Okay.
Where would you get the heroin you'd pack the car with, out of curiosity?
Good question. I haven't thought that through. I know who to call though now.
No, not me, man. I'm clean.
See, Dr.
So that's that.
That's really interesting, isn't it? So
for two reasons, mostly the kid thing, and that he like already referenced in the video that we played, but it was cut out, so the context was lost because this was cut out, and then the thing about not being able to kick people out that are causing other patients to suffer in their treatment towards their own addictions.
Well, maybe that's the bit that he needed to get rid of, and because that is almost intertwined with the kid story, but they both got that cut out of it, because you can't really separate the two.
But Artie brings it up on the wrap-up show, and that's where it really gets interesting. Last one, guys, number 3.
Shelley.
This has to do with the person on the show. Her name's Shelley. She's like a doctor, I guess.
I know her. I remember.
She was an addict or whatever. So
yes,
well, Shelley reminds me of a strung-out Lisa G, doesn't she?
She's hot.
Yeah, she's got.
Shelley, you don't really hear her whole story. It's intense. You got to have her. She had quite a story, and she prostituted. I mean, she did everything.
Oh, that's so fucking hot.
She had what?
Tattoos, like.
She get them off or something?
No, this.
I love it. I fucking love it. God.
She wears if you notice, she wears everything.
Yeah.
And what about the other guy who looks like Captain America with the hat?
Bob.
Who helped that broad from America Later write that shit song that you did.
Bob Forrest is a former singer from Thelonious Monster. Remember that band?
Thelonious Monk?
Thelonious Monster. It's a little different back in the 80s.
Way different.
And he was a severe addict. He used to come on Loveline back in the day, and I actually declared him dead. I mean, I thought there's no way the guy could survive his addiction.
And he did.
And 10 years later, he turned up. I was like, oh my God.
Let's talk turkey. How much to come on?
How much does somebody get paid?
How much to come on Celebrity?
I don't know. I don't know how much. I don't know. I don't get involved with any of that.
Who do I call?
I'll give you guys a number.
Artie, you see, you try to
see, it motivates people. It motivates them to come get treatment.
You're going to do celebrity rehab if you fail your treatment?
Yeah, I'll do that because it's money. It won't cost me 40 grand. I'll make 100.
I can't wait to see that episode. I will watch.
It's exhausting. It's another Gary Busey.
No, it's not. You think I'm as crazy as that?
No,
dude, I'm on the air. I'm making a living right now. In rehab, I will be quiet. You'll have to beg me to talk.
Really?
Because I'll hate every one of you. That's why when I'm in rehab, I don't say shit.
You said that in the book.
And I'll knock out fucking Shelley.
I got to tell you something.
Wow, yeah, he's angry there. He's angry. But I wonder why that was cut out.
I just love that aspect of like that was the rock and roll part of the whole. That's when Artie would get a little bit, maybe too much, but.
Oh, really? But I think we should start off with Dr. Drew. Did you expect Dr. Drew to come off the way he did today?
I did, because I've been watching the show religiously. And it's funny, we've had an opportunity to have Dr. Drew on the show over the years, basically as the host of Love Lines, and I sort of just didn't see it. And I remember Adam Carolla called me once, and he said, do me a favor, just talk to this guy. And I think I did a pre-interview with him. This might have been 10 years ago, but Adam was like, talk to this guy. He's good. He really wants to get on the show. And it just didn't work. But Howard and I are both really into celebrity rehab. And if you watch the show, Artie hit it right in the head. Like, if you don't watch the show, it looks like complete exploitation. He looks like a jerk. But if you watch the show, he's pretty straightforward. He's very credible. He tells it like it is, and yeah, I mean, he's doing a TV show, so I guess on some level there is a small amount of sort of exploiting what's going on. But
do you see this as Bowie in a car going left, then right, then left, then right, and left, and not making any kind of exit off the highway?
He's an idiot. I mean, he's literally explaining how he's being manipulated. Like this is again, remember, this is very similar to him telling about how he got scammed on eBay. This is like the eBay scam. Yes. He's going, oh yeah, well it sounds like a terrible idea, but once you watch it, it's very credible. You know,
I mean, it could be considered exploitation, but you know, like it's great.
Maybe a little bit. He just says it there. He says it's a little bit exploitative, but you know, it's entertaining.
Yeah.
I think he handles it unbelievably well, and he comes across as a very credible doctor.
Yeah, but to take Artie's side on this, it is on TV. I mean, Artie would not let go of that.
Okay, but let's be honest. Let's talk about that.
If it's credible rehab, what's it doing on television? And Artie had a great joke. You know, what's next? Celebrity funerals.
Yeah, but
his point was well taken.
But here was Artie's real point. Artie came out on the offense and attacked Dr. Drew with this whole "you're exploiting people" because he knew that this segment was going to be about him. So instead of waiting for Dr. Drew to analyze him, Artie came out guns blazing and is like, I'm going to fuck with you before you fuck with me.
And
don't you agree?
I do, but watching and listening to Dr. Drew, he's heard it all. You know what I mean? Like, I thought Artie got to him a little bit, but you got to figure this guy's heard every excuse, every story, every insult. He's been doing it for years, and he's credible, unlike some of the other doctors. And he was not only ready to handle what Artie threw at him, but also clearly read Artie's book and understood the depth of Artie's problem.
His assessment of Artie, when Howard said, okay, tell me what you think of Artie, the first like 5 sentences where he said about Artie's father and about how he sort of glorified him and how, you know, he thinks he could, you know, and he doesn't care if he lives to go and be with him, whatever, I thought was so on how I felt, and I didn't even know how I felt.
And Artie completely broke his balls like he does with anybody else who comes onto the show. And Dr. Drew
relentlessly, by the way.
Dr. Drew wasn't really flinching. I mean, even went back to the Mad TV days, and he thought that maybe he was upset that he didn't remember Artie Lange when he was a guest on his old show.
Yeah. First of all, I just walked in. I caught John about to bash me, and then he switched it to a compliment. I think that's what happened. No?
I just took your side, actually.
I know, because I walked in.
No. Before
he was on your side.
Oh, good. He was on
I was saying how he was saying how he sort of agrees with you on some level that it is exploitive, and I was saying that you came out with that. You came out guns blazing because you knew Dr. Drew was going to fuck with you, and you were on him before he could be on you.
It was so funny listening. Like Will came in to give Howard the notes on Dr. Drew,
and Artie wouldn't leave.
I wouldn't leave because I wanted to make Will go through hell because Will clearly had to talk to Benji. That's the jacket.
Oh God, he's going to go into this jacket thing. Guys, I'm going to skip through it. It's about Benji's jacket, so give me a sec. Sorry, guys. We'll continue. That was just one edit I didn't bother making. I knew it was in there, and I knew it was. We'd have to do this.
All right.
What's the matter, Day? You don't like looking for drugs at 2 a.m. in Milwaukee?
All right.
Now, Artie, before you came in, I was explaining. I took your side in the sense that how could you say that this guy, Dr. Drew,
BlackBerry's blowing up,
isn't exploitive when everything he does is on television?
Right, of course. The guy's look, I know he's a nice guy, but look, I said to him point blank, would you let one of your daughters do this? And of course the thought of that's horrifying to him. And he went, good question. No. It's just, look, he's taking advantage of the biggest fuck ups that are out in LA right now. You know, I mean, that's
okay. So let's say we buy into that point, which you're not off on that all the way.
I don't know how I'm off at all.
Do you still think that he's not giving them proper treatment?
No, they're not getting. He admitted it. He admitted it by not being able to throw out the real entertaining people like Gary Busey, and he said Tawny. I don't know what she was doing. By not being able to throw them. Okay, by not being able to throw them out. And why do you throw them out? Not because you don't care about them anymore. Because they could affect the treatment of the other people. That's why you throw them out. So by not being able to throw them out, to have them still there, still being a disruptive force with the other people, no one's getting proper treatment.
Okay,
nobody.
Say we buy into that, right?
He's dead. He's dead on.
100%. This is what we talked about actually on the first one, which was they may get a successful treatment, right?
Right.
But it'll be, but that would probably be at the expense of it being entertaining and vice versa.
It's not the priority of the show for them to get good treatment. The priority is let's get renewed for a second season.
Yeah, let's get ratings.
Right.
And hopefully they won't die.
Right, we've got a season to scout out for other fuck ups in case we need a few replacements.
I mean, how many funerals did Dr. Drew have to go to? From like just, I think we're into the double figures. I mean, he's like poor Kenny Dalglish after Hillsborough having to go all to all these funerals. I mean, he there was like the guy from that poor guy who got beaten up. Remember Rodney King by the cops?
Oh well, yeah,
he died.
Reginald Denny, well, obviously, yeah. No, Rodney King got beat by the cops. Reginald Denny got beaten by the. Hold on.
He got pulled out of his truck.
He got pulled out of the truck and thrown the brick thrown at him. Oh God, that was awful.
That's right. Yeah, it was awful. Yeah, and then there was Mike Starr. There was Jeff Conaway. There was Tawny Katane. There was who else died? There's a few more.
Well, Jeff Conaway is dead. Busey is still alive. I don't know how that. And for some reason, Andy Dick, who must be like some kind of future like organism, because he just survives all these things. Looks like he arranged a fucking like a beat down on himself to get sympathy and get some kind of like GoFundMe for my hospital bills. And he's hooked up with that fucking what's her name, that grifter that was with Benji, Elisa Jordana. And I mean, you just when I saw those two together, I go. Scam. Yeah,
he's a horrific person.
Oh God, horrific. I forgot that that great story I already told about Rob Schneider when Rob Schneider was still Rob Schneider from SNL.
Yeah.
And
Deuce Bigelow.
He was in a bunch of Sandler films too. The guy who hit Reginald Denny. Because Schneider's a bit of a right winger, right? So he was all very much like, fuck him, and we need justice for him. But he happened to run into him at SNL for some reason. Football Williams was his name. So he saw him in the bathroom or something. Hey man, I know you. Football Williams, and he goes, I love you. You're the copy guy. You funny. And then they hugged. He hugged him. And then Norm said to Rob, he's like, you kind of threw away your whole ethos just for a hug. Oh, God, it was unbelievable. But just getting back to the point here, like it's not like this isn't, it's not, we can see why Artie is looking for this thing to fail, because he doesn't want to have to do any of this bullshit, and he doesn't want to have to answer to piss tests and whatnot. At the same time, he's not wrong about what he's had to say about this whole sober house, and this is even more damning, the fact that it was on the wrap-up show and then they cut it out of the Howard TV thing, which makes me 100% positive that Drew told them get rid of it.
Yeah, and it's also interesting that the walking continent of common sense that is John Hine is very happy to play devil's advocate as long as it doesn't reflect poorly on Howard. He's and he's no wallflower here. Like, he's willing to call out Drew. He's calling out the hypocrisy,
right?
But he knows it's a safe one to it's a safe.
He goes just so far. He never makes it past the halfway line.
No.
So because listen. Okay, you're right. Does that mean that he has no ability to judge or diagnose anybody else?
No, that doesn't mean that. I'm just saying he doesn't care about it as much. That's all. I'm saying that. Look, he's admitting that. I don't think he's a bad guy, but here's a true doctor with intent. Here's a guy, and look, none of us are Jesus Christ, and I'm not judging anybody, and I know I'm about to put him up on a pedestal that no human being should be put up to, and I don't think anybody should be perfect, except Benji, who's clearly a perfectionist. This to me is a doctor I would want to see. A guy who goes, look, you're unbelievable at what you do. You happen to practice in Los Angeles. We would love for you to do a TV show and with these people. And here the guy goes, no, I can't do that. I can't ever bring myself to do that because this is sacred to me. I'm a doctor. I took an oath. I can't put these people on TV if I'm not allowed full autonomy, and I can't do whatever I have to do within treatment to make them better. That's a doctor I want to see. Dr. Drew was asked that question, even if he asked himself in his own head, and he said, I'm willing to fucking do it on television. That's all I'm saying. Doesn't make him a bad guy. I don't judge him in a bad way because we're all human beings, man. I mean, we all go for the money.
But in a way, you are judging him because you're saying that he's not good enough to diagnose or treat you. But in your mind, for what you want.
I don't think he's. And I think he's not. he shouldn't be able to treat a lot of people due to that, just one factor. I mean, look, the other thing is, how many people is he not if he thinks he's such a great doctor, how many people is he not treating because he's in a meeting with the network, or because he's developing another show?
That's unfair to say, because you would have to sit there and figure out what every doctor does with their time when they're not with a patient.
What about a golfer? Doctors do two things with their time.
What if they were golfing? What if you were golfing instead of being in with the network?
Go to the hacky thing, golfing.
I'm just saying.
Whatever. I'm saying, look. Drew probably golfs too, but the average doctor doesn't golf, take care of his kids, meet the network, develop a show, and then see a couple of people. The average doctor golfs, takes care of his kids, and then sees as many people as he can help, and not on television. And that's all I'm saying. Look.
And I mentioned her on the show before. Sue Johansson, Sex with Sue was the show. It was made in Ontario, and she died. She passed away not too long ago. She had retired ages ago and stuff. She was retired when she did the show. She decided, I just want to be like a health professional. And she was an example of a doctor you want on TV. Likable, straight, like straight-laced, like not straight-laced, like really loose as a goose, very upfront about, like STDs and stuff, and teaching kids exactly how a condom works and this stuff like that, and no shame whatsoever. And clearly doing it for the purposes of sex education for kids who really need this shit. That's a doctor. Yeah. Dr. Drew is a celeb, like a celeb fucker. He's no different than, Dr. Nick, the guy that supplied Elvis with all of his prescriptions.
Yeah, and I think, but I do think that Artie's gone down somewhat of a cul-de-sac here with this argument that he's making, because the issue is not how he spends his time, really. It's what he does. The nature of the show, not the fact that he's taking meetings with the network. It's the nature of the show that's the problem, not the time spent. No. Because ultimately, look, if he's treating people, there are plenty of other doctors who can cover for him if he needs to go for a meeting somewhere. People are not going to be sitting there waiting. So I don't know whether this is a very strong argument to take against Drew. There's a lot of other
better arguments,
lines of attack.
Yeah.
I'm a fuck up, and I'm not judging. I am judging him, but I'm not saying that, look, I hate him or he should be in hell for this. I'm not doing what Jesus would do. I'm not saying I'm not a fuck up. I'm just giving you my opinion that he had to ask himself that question: should I do this on television? And can I give the proper treatment on television? The answer is no, clearly in his head. And anyway, he said yes anyway. That's all I'm saying.
I'm not a fuck up, and I agree with Artie. I think doing it on TV hurts your credibility. I do. See, and again, I think he's good at what he does. I think he made a lot of sense, and I think Artie absolutely needs help. But I think he makes a very good point.
All right, let's get off this topic because we're getting stuck here.
Because you're losing.
No. What did you think of his assessment of you?
So we're going to go into that. What that about Artie just nailing it down, and then also that John Hein actually slammed him as opposed to the modern, like kiss ass thing.
So so if you listen back to that, John Hein says, I think it hurts his credibility that he's put it on TV. And then he says, I do, because clearly Gary is looking at him going, what are you saying? This isn't the script. Yeah. And suddenly Gary realizes he's outnumbered, and suddenly his argument is pointless. It's just, Gary's argument is, I find him credible. For no other, you can't go espouse any deeper than that. No. So suddenly now he's like, well, let's get away from this. What do you do for a living, sir? You know what I mean?
It's not too far off.
That initial assessment.
Actually, wait, before you answer that, Artie, I'm sorry. Teddy, hit clip number 1.
John's not a fuck up.
People, when they're sober, end up better than they thought they could be.
Right.
But it's almost like you want to join your dad. You know what I mean? And if you can't live without him, you're not going to live. You know what I mean? And that's, you deserve a better life. You deserve a sober life. Right. And he would want that for you. And it seems like you idealize him so much that he can't be the real guy he was with you. And you won't let go of the idealized image. And that's either pulling you towards death or keeping you on heroin.
I hate that. That's that kind of, I know we covered this already, but that's just pure emotional manipulation there. And I hate it. I really hate it.
Yeah, and it's not actually getting to the root of the addiction and what have you. And we guys, we know, like, the people that have had addictions, there's a multitude of reasons why they get addicted and why they stay addicted. And I mean, a lot of times, and sometimes it feeds another thing, like another thing that's now a new problem as a result of it. So in terms of Artie and in terms of his dad, I mean, the one thing that was freaky, and we did discuss it, I'm sure, was the Vice episode where he says, "I got a piece of the last antenna my dad installed above my bed," and that was unbelievable to me. I was taken aback. I had to stop it and think about it for a second, and I probably would have. If I'd known him, if I had been like in his family, like if I'd been Stacy, his sister or his mother, and that was a fucking decor choice that he decided, and I saw that, I probably would have cried.
I think so. Yeah, it's
Like just
very
but not because it would make me emotional. Like to say, "Oh, that's so nice." It would be like, "What the fuck are you doing?"
yeah. How much are you carrying around with yourself all the
Yes.
time, 24 hours a day in the back of your head?
Like that guilt has to go out somewhere, has to go away somewhere, because and I do believe that he has made some kind of peace with it at this point.
Yeah, maybe, but I think like what you're just saying, I think Drew knows this. Drew's smart. Like he's not stupid at all. I don't think. Obviously he's not, but I think he knows that, and that's why he's going down this line. He probably has. This is a bit like. Do you ever watch those interrogation videos where there's the great one, the classic one is the guy in Canada, Russell Williams.
Russell Williams.
Which is kind of, for me, it's kind of the absolute best in terms of the lines of kind of the way, I forget the interrogator's name, but he just beautifully kind of constructs this kind of safe place for Russell Williams that he thinks he is, and just lets him talk, and then very carefully dismantles the whole thing. But I think what Drew is doing, like, there's nothing worse than when someone says, say someone who doesn't know, like if you have someone close to you who dies, and there's someone who doesn't know them at all, and they say something like, "Oh, they wouldn't want you to be blah blah blah," and it's like, well, how do you know? You don't know that person.
You don't even know that person.
And that's what Drew is doing. That's what Drew is doing here. So your father wouldn't want you. Well, you don't know what Artie's dad was like, or what he would or not want. So
you're overstepping at that point.
Yeah, I think
unless you knew the person and you were a lifelong friend or something like that. There's certain people that can get away with a comment like that.
Yeah, I just say this: if someone did that to me, because like my mother passed away, if someone started saying that to me, like, I would just shut down completely. I'd just be like, yeah, blank expression, and just, I'm just not even entertaining this stuff, like,
Yeah, do me a favor.
Cuckoo land.
Yeah.
Let's not forget to mention the fact that he developed this theory by reading Artie Lange's Too Fat to Fish, still on shelves,
which is a very honest book and a pretty good insight into who you are.
It's a fantastic book. I'm not going to argue.
But
it's the best book out now. I get it.
It's pretty good insight into who you are. It's not every moment.
He called the book riveting.
Good. Okay. So get to the answer, the point.
He bought his own copy too.
Listen. No, he didn't. I don't want to be dead. Okay. That's extreme. I don't want to join my father in death. What he did say after that, which I think is probably true, is it might be the reason I'm still doing heroin and other drugs. I don't want to be dead. I don't, if there was an afterlife that you believed in and my father saw me there before I was 90, I think he wouldn't want me there either. I wouldn't want to be there. I don't want to be dead. I'm telling you right now, I don't. But it might be the thing that keeps me going back to drugs.
Do you think that you have put your father on this pedestal and idealized him to a place that may not be real anymore?
Well, look, if you read the book, I say in the book, when I describe some of the things he did, that he did put my mother through hell at times. He was crazy.
But it's about you and him, though. Just about you and him.
Yeah, no, I mean, look, a shrink might beg to differ, but I don't think I put him up on that pedestal where he can do no wrong.
But it's funny because in a way you almost said that today when you talked about how when your dad was a quadriplegic, how in your mind you thought that a thief coming into the house, that your dad could still somehow defend.
See, but that was then. I don't believe that now. It's a long time ago, Gary. Okay. And I don't believe that now. If my father was a quadriplegic in the house and a burglar broke in now, we'd be fucked. I'd leave and let him, do whatever. Steal my father. But
this is where it gets a little too psychological, but there's only a little bit left.
So, you know, at that point I did. At that point I can remember going to bed at night and saying, God, if someone broke in, we'd be fine, you know. I don't think that anymore. I was 20 when that happened. You know, look, clearly something's fucking me up. Clearly my father has something to do with it, but I don't want to be dead. I promise you.
But do you think that Dr. Drew is right in saying that the father connection you believe has to do with why you keep going back? You said something today that shocked me.
Yeah, that could have something to do with me doing drugs, of course. I'm sure it does.
You said something today that shocked me, which I did not realize. You said that you have not been more than 11 months sober in how long?
Since I was 17.
I had no idea.
Yeah,
See,
wait,
I
thought
you had wait.
Since you were 17, how long have you been sober for?
But Art, that's kind of interesting what you just said. Like, and I've noticed that before. When was your dad's accident?
October 1985. A week after my 18th birthday. So I started drinking before he fell.
But let's define started drinking. We're having a beer here and there. When did you have a problem with drinking? Or have you ever had a problem with drinking?
Well, I mean, sure I have, of course.
In other words, do you think you were heading down the road you were heading down before your father's accident, or not necessarily?
No. I don't blame him for me leaving. Look, I got into college under false pretenses, and I would have left. School was not for me.
He's going to continue a little bit of this. Now, I don't know. I don't want to play amateur psychologist, psychiatrist, or whatever, but I guarantee the drugs at some point in the drinking was definitely about guilt based.
Yeah, well, you're either trying to kind of fill in, there's an unmet need, or else there's a pain there that you're trying to distract yourself from. There's a hole there, but no doubt. But it's interesting. He says Gary's so shocked when he says he hasn't been 11 months sober since. I mean, I haven't been 11 months sober since I was 17.
He's not understand. Yeah, because I think Gary's thinking this extreme amount of intake. I think daily. I think that's where he was coming from. But yeah, if I had to. I mean, God, these days I'm more sober than just about everybody I know in terms of how often I drink, which is really maybe once a month now, not even that much, because I just don't enjoy it anymore. And when I'm out, I do enjoy it, but at home, I've never liked it. And with Artie, I mean, it's literally, fuck. If he wasn't drinking, he was doing coke. If he wasn't doing coke and drinking, he was doing heroin. If he wasn't doing heroin, he was drinking and whatever else, most people haven't had longer than a month of sustained sobriety once they get to a certain age, unless if they're regular drinkers, because, you don't consider yourself an alcoholic, but you're not sober.
Yeah, well, yeah, sure, but
you're not
just
dry.
Myself just myself personally. If it's a weekend and say there's a 5 o'clock game on, the results are going the right way.
Yeah.
Boom. If there's a beer in the fridge, that's getting opened because
What if it's going the wrong way?
If I get excited, huh?
What if it's going the wrong way? The result.
Oh yeah, no. That's a different. There's no celebrating there.
No, fair enough. Yeah. Guys, that wraps up this episode. We hope you've enjoyed it. Sorry it took 3 episodes to get to it rather than 2, but there was more than an hour of video and then easily a half hour or just about a half hour of wrap-up show, so that's when it gets to that point. Anyway, we hope you've enjoyed it, and we hope you enjoy future offerings with Len and myself and everybody else, the usual gang of QFers, and we'll see you on the next one.
Johnny was going to call in with the
later, man. Good, thanks for calling.
All right, Art.
Announcement.
Take care,
today,
buddy.
He sprained his ankle.
Yeah, we'll see you.
Hey, Eric, I got to run along.
Take care, buddy.
All right, thanks, Eric.
Oh, wait.
Go fuck yourself.
Anyone looking to go to any concerts this summer?
No.
Check out. Get pre-sales.
No one wants to go. We'll see you, buddy. Bye.
Hank, you're on the air.
Hey now, Howard. Howard.